What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Transfer Show. Probably welcome that. Welcome everybody to the Gooner channel January Transfer Window Show, which doesn't have a name yet and is still just called the January Transfer Window Show. JTWN. No, we're just going to call it the January Transfer Window Show. So to start off with, all I'm going to be doing is I'm taking a look at the news stories around potential Arsenal transfers and diving into them, see if I can find sources, how credible they are, and trying to work out if there's any truth to them. So it's going to be a really exciting January transfer window because we are going to be linked with everyone. But full disclosure going into this, my personal view is we are unlikely to see huge amounts of money splashed, and that is because this is the first transfer window since Everton were docked 10 points. And that is a point very well made in a Guardian article, which is actually about, if not Tony, then which striker for Arsenal. That's right, our first transfer speculation surrounds Ivan Toney, and who would have expected anything else? He has been talked about in relation to Arsenal since summer. September's when it really started popping off. But with our failure to convert enough of our chances, without us having a goal scorer in our midst, of course, speculation from every direction has turned towards a striker. And Ivan Toney seems to have been the first choice for many people. Not for me. It remains to be said. I keep saying it. I would be really disappointed if we shelled out the near at least 80 million, possibly near 100 million it would probably take to get him. But the Guardian has done a piece and it's talked about whether it's said Victor Osimhen has been mentioned, which is actually quoting the Independent. Boniface or Lautaro Martinez are all being considered. But Mbappe could earn 23 million a season, and that would have to be considered as well. But it sort of raises this question of Mbappe, which may come up later. Pay attention. But Football London has said that Arteta has asked the board to prioritise a striker, but fair play regulations may restrict their business. Tony identified as top target. According to the Independent, Arteta has asked the board to prioritise a striker. You're going to see that everybody is quoting the Independent on Arteta having suddenly changed his mind to go for a striker instead of a midfielder and two defenders, which he's quoted as having wanted up until quite recently. So this is a sudden turnaround. Now, the first thing I want to say about this is, does that seem likely to you? Does it seem likely to you that, Arteta's been asking Edu and his team to get him a couple of defenders and a midfielder, but then on the day of the transfer window or just before, it says, actually get me a striker, and do it in a month and make him brilliant. It just doesn't seem to me how these things would work. These are huge and complicated deals. Edu's talked about this in the past. They take months to complete, not hours. So this idea that everybody's quoting the Independent, that Arteta has suddenly changed his priorities to wanting a striker, I don't think that's necessarily true at all. But Thomas Frank is also come in and said, as far as I know, Ivan is a Brentford player. So there are no talks seemingly underway. It would be starting from scratch. And I do think that it's interesting that there's not been any firm offers up until now, or discussions around it. But then Football London also has this little note about, is Mbappe actually the most realistic option? And I am going to come back to that. So stay tuned for Mbappe. But the Mirror says, again, quoting the Independent, Arteta ready to abandon plans to add defensive options and instead press ahead for Tony. They claim they revealed that in September. Chris Sutton, interestingly enough, says that we should be swerving Tony for Solanke. But again, no question that we definitely need a striker. And apparently, Guy Corres, who we've been mentioned to be very interested in, apparently prefers Spain, Italy or Germany. There's no sources to that. So I can't attest to the validity of that. The Sun quotes the Daily Mail that Arsenal have rejected an inquiry from Palace for Eddie, which makes you wonder, doesn't it? If we're not going to sell Eddie Nketiah, and we're looking to spend 80 million on Ivan Toney, if you believe that rumour, without having any money coming in the other way. It just seems, if you were going to bring in Ivan Toney, wouldn't you be okay with Eddie Nketiah leaving? The window has been slammed shut on Eddie Nketiah, according to the Daily Mail, and the Sun's quoted them as well. Il Mattino I can quote, is saying that Tomiyasu will be allowed to leave in the January transfer window. But I mean, how does that fit in with the idea that we're definitely not going for defenders? Would you, Arteta has talked about we're short in certain areas. I don't think he means up front. Maybe he does, but if he means up front, then we're definitely more short. In the back four. So here's one that's really interesting: is Charlie Patino to Juventus. Fabrizio Romano has poured doubt, at least on that, saying there are no plans for Juventus to get Charlie Patino. But the reason that one was really interesting is because Charlie Patino, as a make-weight, could go the other way for Adrien Rabiot. So more on that. I want to come back to, as promised, Kylian Mbappe. Kylian Mbappe, this is going to be terrible business from Paris Saint-Germain, but it has been for a long time. It's been unfolding in a way not favourable to them. But it's clear that if Kylian Mbappe stays at Paris Saint-Germain for the last 6 months of his contract, he then gets to leave, negotiate himself a really good deal. He apparently wants 23 million a year, which, if you factor in that there's no transfer fee, is not something that I think is beyond. It works far better. It's a natural amortization because the amount you give him seasonally, and he's only paid seasonally, and his value on the books of Arsenal will be much greater than the cost it's brought him in. So it might help us in a strange way with financial fair play if he's listed as an asset. If you have him on a 5-year contract, the asset value of Mbappe at his age is pretty good. So Kylian Mbappe could be out of the likely contenders. If you were going for a top striker at Arsenal, you are looking at Ivan Toney, although I don't think of him as a top striker, and Solanke, similar. But, if you're looking at European elite strikers that are rumoured to be leaving their current clubs, Victor Osimhen, Guirassy, who is doing really well at Stuttgart, will probably leave, but may not transpose those results. This epic season he's having, which has come out of nowhere a little bit. But, he's being talked about. Not as much as I was expecting, given how much easier it is going to be to do a deal for Guirassy. But when you're looking at Lautaro Martinez or Victor Osimhen or one of these level players, it's £120 million, which you have to pay a good chunk of up front versus, well, if you went and it actually, the £120 million for Victor Osimhen does not count his wages. I think of all of the possible deals, now this really comes down to how much Kylian Mbappe has his heart set on joining Real Madrid. I can't see why he wouldn't. It's been something that's been talked about so much that I almost can't see how it doesn't happen. Real Madrid is the one club that I think any would be tempted to go to Real Madrid. Will that happen this January? I don't know. Real Madrid obviously have played this intelligently and very well if they want to do a last-minute deal. Paris Saint-Germain have got to get some money for him, surely, somehow. Evening Standard has also gone with Gonzalo Inacio, linked, but apparently that's cooled. Arsenal discuss, again, quoting the Independent on Sunday, Osimhen. There really isn't too much to this story, except that Osimhen is somebody of interest to Arsenal, which you would hope. The 120 million is a no-go if Arsenal are going to comply with financial fair play. And it's not financial fair play, by the way. It's profit and sustainability that we're most worried about, it seems here. Now, Metro Sports come in with Toney is the top target. Same thing, quoting the Independent. But Thomas Frank is not keen to sell Toney. And he kind of said that. He said, I'm not desperate to keep him. I don't want to talk about being desperate. But he's an important player for us. And you could see how he'd have an impact and why Brentford would really not want to lose him in a January transfer window. They're losing their two strikers who've scored half their goals to the African Cup of Nations. The Independent under Miguel Delaney. So let's look at this story. And he says Arteta has been considering a move for two fullbacks and a midfielder, which makes a bunch of sense, doesn't it? He writes, the Independent has been told that Arsenal to Osimhen was mentioned. And that's it, really. The story just kind of talks very little about anything other than Toney being the top target for Arsenal and Arteta having changed his mind from two fullbacks and a midfielder. And I'm just not sure that he has. Then we get to the TalkSport article where they actually quote Arteta because one of their journalists in the press conference asked him the question, and he seems to close the transfer window and put the shutters up before it's even fully opened. He talks about, working with the players he has, and that's what the option seems to be. Now, he hasn't done what he did on the final day of the summer transfer window, which is actually say we're not signing anyone. He came out and pretty much ruined that show, but he but he hasn't done that this time. But he is pouring a bit of cold water on the idea that there's going to be huge transfers. But Football London also making the case that maybe Mbappe is the most viable, and I really like that idea. Football London is also doing a piece on who are the most viable free transfers, because Mbappe is being talked about, because we could negotiate something at least so that he signs June for free. I really hope there's something in it, but I think we all believe that Mbappe will go to Real Madrid. But Gabriel, there are two others mentioned in the Football London article. One is Gabriel Barbosa, who is a hot-headed Flamengo player who's not doing that well at the moment. He has terrible discipline issues, and he's in terrible form. So I don't know where they quote him as, he's in the peak of his playing power. I don't see it. Please do correct me in the comments if you think Gabriel Barbosa is exactly the sort of player you want to see coming to Arsenal. It doesn't feel like an Arteta player to me. But the other one, this one is really interesting to me. It's Adrien Rabiot. We've gone from the player in the start of the transfer window that everybody would have expected me to talk about to a regular feature of every transfer window since I think Wenger was linked to Adrien Rabiot. That's my recollection. It just seemed like every summer transfer window, Adrien Rabiot, and it just never happened. But one of the key things here is in 90 Minutes did a piece in November saying that Juventus are confident they'll be able to extend Adrien Rabiot's contract, but that hasn't happened. And now we're in the transfer window. The reality is that he has 6 months left to run this contract, and Juventus seem to be struggling to offer him a contract. He has been linked in the past with Man United, Chelsea and Spurs, but he's very keen on Champions League football. And he doesn't really want to go anywhere that can't guarantee him that. So, of course, of Man United, Chelsea, Spurs or Arsenal, we're the only ones who could offer him that. There's been strong interest in him for so long that you think he would have had some communications with us. And Juve FC in September were talking about, quoting, it must be said, Calcio Mercato Web, which I don't particularly rate, but we'll see. Maybe they'll pull off a scoop one day. They've simply said Arsenal holds a strong interest in Adrien Rabiot. Now, apparently, Adrien Rabiot was really close to signing for Manchester United in 2022. Ten Hag's side couldn't get the deal done either with Juve or with the player. And I really don't think if you could choose a team to go to right now, that many players with their heart set on the Champions League will go to Man United or Chelsea, but Spurs might be an option. So Adrien Rabiot is available. Now, is Adrien Rabiot the sort of player that you would like to sign at Arsenal? Yeah, but for me, this is a no-brainer. Yes, he absolutely is. He's a huge upgrade on, if you like what Kai Havertz is doing in the midfield, I think you'll love what Adrien Rabiot would do in midfield. I do think there is space in this team for Kai Havertz, but there's no question in my mind that if you bring in Adrien Rabiot, midfield of Rabiot, Rice and Odegaard comes with a lot more potential threat, creativity, and just general midfield generalness. So I would love to see us sign Adrien Rabiot, and I don't think it's out of the question. It has been mentioned, but there aren't a lot of speculations around it. And that's unusual for a transfer window. So maybe the irony is the first transfer window it's not really being talked about is the one transfer window we do see Adrien Rabiot coming to Arsenal. Now, what Calcio Mercato were quoted as saying in September was that the idea was actually that it was going to be a swap of Jorginho for Adrien Rabiot, which is absolutely an upgrade, well worth doing. But Juve FC go on to say, look, this would strongly favour Arsenal. This is not a like for like by any stretch of imagination. Might involve some money changing hands as well. But if the option is to keep Rabiot for another 6 months and then he goes on a free transfer, maybe it does make some sense to get a player of value in to replace him. But Juve widely reported to be very interested in Charlie Patino, and Fabrizio Romano has poured scorn on that, saying that's not close. And it's odd, and it would be an odd one anyway, wouldn't it? But they do have financial problems. They do apparently like Charlie Patino. They are unable, it seems, to do a deal for a contract with Rabiot. Rabiot, I think, is open to leaving in summer anyway. May well leave sooner. For me, the transfer speculation of the day, I'm saying look out for more discussion around Adrien Rabiot. Do I think this is going to happen? Ultimately, no. It's a little bit too good to be true, this one. So a bit like the Kylian Mbappe one. But hopefully that's been of interest to you. That has been your first day of the transfer window from the January transfer news window show. I don't know. As you can see, the show is very much a work in progress. So please do feel free to leave your comments, what you liked, what you didn't like. I take them personally because I take them seriously. And together we can improve this channel every single day. Thank you so much for being part of it. If you've subscribed already, if you haven't, what are you waiting for? And please do hit a like on this video. It helps other people as wonderful as you to see it. Till I see you tomorrow for the next installment of January transfer news window. Suggestions for the title would be good as well. Anyway, till I see you tomorrow. Be lucky. Lots of love.